Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's go. What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 5 of the DTK podcast. Today, we have a very special guest we want to introduce to you. This is the newest addition to our family. This is Brandon with TBD Studios. Brandon, how you doing today?
Better now, dude. It's great to be here, to be in your guys' presence, to kind of, well, we'll talk a little bit more, but when I told Fad and Dan and Jay and everybody, there's something about your guys' energy that has like a gravitational pull to it. And the moment I met all of you guys kind of all as a collective, which ironically is, one of your projects, it's something that you feel, and you guys have a presence about you. And to say that I'm grateful and honored to have been welcomed with such open arms and such love in such a short amount of time, it's saying I can't even begin to put in words. So I'm glad to be here.
We're glad to have you as well.
Definitely glad to have you. Actually, the first time I realized Brandon was part of us when we met him in Laguna and he said he was from the IE. After that, I was like, oh boy.
One of us.
One of the guys made it out in Laguna. He's from IE. Okay, we got to talk to him, man. No, we're very, very appreciative to have you and part of the team. You know how valuable this is to all of us, and it's kind of like fitting at the perfect time because we're about to start shooting a lot of content, and we just kind of like the last episode, we're all aligning with people in our area, and you're one of them that, I mean, like Fatty said, you're part of the family now. We enjoy your presence. You're coming over here, you're working with us, and we can't wait to actually get going along with the projects down the road. So I'm very grateful to have you. Brandon from TBD Studios. This is episode, what, 5?
5.
5 already, man. 5 already. So where do we start?
Well, pretty soon we're not going to be able to start throwing these hand gestures out when we're saying the podcast, right? As a quick backfill, everything we see right now is actually put on for us by Brandon. So the setup, everything from the lighting to the mics and camera and everything in between. We have Byron with Alpha Production Studios.
Nice.
We have Byron with Alpha Production Studios behind the camera directing today. So major shout out to everybody involved. Where do we start? I think it was probably meeting Brandon, right? I was kind of torn for a loop the day that we were gearing up to meet him because Dan was texting him, and I get screenshots saying that we're meeting Brandon, and then Byron behind the camera as well is also texting him, and 2 separate conversations. I think that neither one of you guys had any idea that you guys were all talking in a circle, but it all came together. And from the moment that we met, like Brandon said, it was open arms and nothing but love. So we knew we had somebody that was part of our gang, part of our team that saw life through the same lens that we do. So I think today is all about you, and I think we want to kind of get a backstory here. Again, what our podcast generally is about is kind of shining a light on some of the struggles and obstacles that people have overcome, right? We all have a lot of them, and we'd like to hear a little bit about your journey and what brought you here today.
Absolutely. So we'll get right into it. Kind of all reverse engineer, because we had mentioned, we met in Laguna Beach. That's where we're at today, or not physically today, but that's where we met, right? But to kind of go all the way back, prior to getting into the media business and really this whole space, my formal education background was in marketing. So I studied business at Cal State San Bernardino. My original plan after that, actually, I had a mentor of mine. He was a coach. So I played baseball in high school, and he opened up a new school. He was like, hey, I need some help. Come coach with me. So I started coaching high school baseball while I was in college, played for a little bit. And then long story short, he was like, look, you'd make a great teacher. You make a great coach. I think you should get your teaching credential. So that was the route that I went down. I got my credential. I got my master's. I was teaching. So before all this, I taught for about 4.5 years. I taught special ed. I taught elementary school my first year, middle school my second year, and then I taught at a continuation school my last 2 years. And within that time was around 2020 actually. Everyone kind of knows what happened during 2020, right? Can I say the pandemic? Is that allowed on this? I'm sure everybody has
Everything's allowed on here, man.
Everyone's got their viewpoints. But yeah, so it was a strange time. but it was an opportunity for me. So what happened was, I was teaching high school at the time, and because we were not able to go on campus, we were doing like some weird hybrid stuff. I had all this free time, and I wasn't allowed to actually physically be in the classroom. So what I did is I got a second job while I was teaching. So I had a teaching salary. I got a part-time job at Trader Joe's. I was working security, and I was kind of doing some like extra stuff like Uber Eats and Instacart just to make some extra cash. And my goal that year was to buy a house. So I was working four jobs. And within about 7-8 months, I saved up enough around like between 20 and 30K for a down payment, right? So I bought a house in Big Bear. The plan was to turn it into an Airbnb, short-term rental. And I bought just like this nasty 1970s log cabin. Hadn't been touched since then, 30 plus years, right? And I just gave it some TLC, having no experience with renovations or demo, anything. I just kind of just jumped right into it and learned. And that was one of them. It was kind of, for me, it was a big, kind of like a coming of age story, because I hadn't really gone through physical, it was actually like physical pain going through the full, I was living in the house and doing the demo and all the renovations. And as you know, Big Bear, it's a mountain city, right? And it was freezing up there. Nobody wanted to come help me. It was like 19 degrees. My dad and like my family was just like, we'll see you in the spring when everything melts, right? No hot water, no heating, no AC or anything. Well, obviously no AC, but no heater. I had some gentleman come in to install a heater, and he checked out the house. He was like, honestly, this property is inhabitable. You should not be living in it. So it was pretty much red tagged because, like I said, I just had no access to heat. A bunch of stuff, like I said, just the whole renovations. So that was one of like the first obstacles, physical obstacles, big ones that I went through. And for all 6 months, I pretty much lived on my own. Me and the dog, me and Penelope, or Penelope and I.
And shout out to Penelope. She's right down under our foot right now. If I'm cornered in, you guys know why. I'm not touching her. She's leaving here. She's too beautiful to touch. How cute is this? Shout out to Penelope.
No, she's a sweetheart. But yeah, she's my road dog. Got her. She was a puppy. She's gone everywhere with me. So that was like such a great experience. I would do it all over again. I loved it. I loved renovating. I loved building. I loved being creative. And fast forward, which is kind of why I decided to jump into the media business. And we'll kind of get into the business side of things and investing with real estate. We can touch on a few points.
I want to touch on, so when you first started, it was from baseball, right? Like the journey you just kind of mentioned. So did you ever have in your mind that you wanted to become a teacher?
So that was actually the two sort of, I guess, like when you teach high school, you have the opportunity to be a coach, essentially. Obviously, if you're going to coach, you have to be a teacher. So that was the plan when I was teaching, was to kind of do both.
Coach and teach.
Coaching and teaching, yeah.
Okay.
So that was, I've always kind of enjoyed, working with the youth, whether it's after school program or whatever, and then obviously do sports. So that was the original plan.
So then teaching, what kind of qualities did that teach you in your life during that time? Because obviously you're not teaching anymore. What's like the reason, or what kind of got you into a different pathway, different journey? So
ironically, when teaching, especially at the high school level, and teaching special ed and teaching students at a continuation school that were labeled emotionally disturbed. So I taught a very specific niche of young men that were in and out of juvenile hall multiple times. This was basically strike two for them. If they messed up one more time, they're pretty much just like done. So like, I remember my first day, I had a couple of girls in there too. I remember my first day, this girl, Ashley, they had a teacher in the classroom prior to me. She lasted one day. She just couldn't take it. And I remember this girl, she came up just all tatted. Her name was, I forget her name, or I won't even say it on the podcast, but she walks in. She's like, "Hey, fool, you're my teacher?" I was like, "Yes, nice to meet you. My name's Brandon. You don't have to call me Mr. Ortega." She's like, "I don't like you, fool." I was like, all right, great first day, great way to start, And, honestly, I learned more than I probably could have even taught these kids, and just hearing their stories, just being like so empathetic and understanding of these kids gone through crazy stuff. I mean, stuff that I couldn't even imagine going through, So it really opens your eyes and it teaches you, to really be, like I said, works the empathetic muscle and to understand, like, you never know what people are going through, what their backgrounds are, why they're acting a certain way. I obviously, having the formal education background, you have to go through their paperwork and stuff, and you read all the stories. But I mean, anybody like off the street, they could be acting a certain way. You just never know like what they go through. So that was just one lesson that I learned, and there's just like a whole laundry list of people skills and building rapport and connecting, and like that was the one thing that I enjoyed the most. I was probably too lackadaisical. Like I have kids. They're hungry. They didn't eat the night before. I'm not going to make them turn in their math homework. It's like these kids are trying to survive. They're in like fight or flight mode constantly.
Yeah, that is actually crazy because if you take a look at just different perspectives in life, like we all come from a different journey and we don't know what the hell that person is going through the night before. And so just looking at those type of kids, it's like, it's so rewarding when you help them because out of everyone in the world, they need the most help. They need someone to fucking be there for them, even if they're fucking calling, what's up, fool, I don't like you. Like, if you're man enough to put that aside and actually see what's in front of them and try to help them out, man, I've done that with like 1-2 people just in the worst case scenario type of stuff. And the reward is like far better than what you could ever imagine, So that's deep.
It's a hard job. It's a lot of responsibility. And I think we need to give a shout out to all the teachers that are out there
for, sure.
For all the hard work and dedication that they put on, because it's one thing when you go to a job where you have to show up and get certain tasks done, and it's another thing when you have to actually work with kids with different backgrounds, and there's that certain sense of responsibility to them. My sister is a 6th grade teacher as well. Mm-hmm. She just started recently within this last year or two. And I remember, I think the first day that she went to school, she has a mixed class of kids as well. And there was also everything after the shutdowns where a lot of kids weren't able to go to school for that entire, duration of time. And they all just get thrown into one classroom together. Yeah. And you got to go from, education, remote education or whatever the correct term is, to actually teaching in a classroom. A lot of these kids weren't prepared to sit down in classes anymore. I think maybe within the first week that she was there was a threat on campus as well. So everything went on lockdown on the spot. So it's a lot. And she would come home very stressed, and thinking about the kids and their well-being. Absolutely. And their personal stories on an individual basis, and all the things that they're dealing with at home, and how whether or not they're able to eat, because this is actually a reality for a lot of people, and we take that for granted. So if you're out there and you have a teacher in your life, show them some love and tell them thank you for the impact that they're having on so many lives. I don't think there's enough credit that goes out to every one of you guys. So I'll start right here, right now. Brandon, thank you for all that commitment that you made to all those kids. And sis, this one goes out to you as well. Keep doing what you're doing.
Nice. Yeah, it's definitely, there's certain people that are built for the education system. I got into it because, I think like all of us here, we share a similar impact as far as, or at least a similar vision as far as wanting to be impactful, right? And to me at the time, it made sense, to impact, young men, teenagers in a high school classroom, more formal setting. But then as time went on, I realized like, look, I want to have a bigger impact that reaches far beyond a single classroom, which led to the journey of entrepreneurship, which led to real estate and making investments, because I want to start thinking bigger. And, unfortunately, like teachers in America are notoriously underpaid, overworked and underpaid. And, if you do, me personally, I feel like if I wanted to make a bigger impact on young men specifically, then I was going to have to do something substantial with my life, not just be the teacher. Because how we were in high school, like, you might have like maybe 1 or 2 teachers that you listen to, but for the most part, you're just like, whatever, like these people don't know what they're talking about. So,
yeah. It does suck, man. One thing I do hate about the education system is they don't teach you anything about like the market. They don't teach you anything about taxes. They don't teach you anything about business. I mean, they have business courses and all that stuff, but heading into like high school from college, especially going to college where you have to take all that bullshit credit. I remember going to college my first year. I was like, why the hell am I taking a PE class? Like, I just graduated from all this bullshit and I have to take more. And that's why I really believe that we're still educators in what you're doing. Like,
absolutely,
we still provide the true education, the true knowledge. And I tell you guys all the time, I think there's a movement happening where people are starting to realize the scam with college, and I say scam because, air quote, because if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, if you need to go in that profession, you need to go and get educated 1,000%. I'm not saying that. But if you're business minded or entrepreneur or anything like that, you could go and you could get advice from people and you could probably learn a lot. But I believe the biggest thing is focusing on what you truly want to learn and going out in the field to learn that. So one of the biggest things for me when I first started real estate back in the day was me. I was lucky. I was in timeshare. I was used to the know. So going door to door knocking was cake to me. Like I liked it. I liked talking to the people, especially in LA. People thought I was Persian. They were like, "What's up, family?" I'm like, I took advantage of that all day. But it was just something that like I went to do and I did it. And the whole movement that I'm seeing right now is people are really focused on either certain niches where they get educated on that and they would rather pay maybe $1,000, $5,000 on a course instead of wasting all that money during the education system and going into debt and then trying to find a job. It just sucks.
I think there's two reasons the landscape's kind of shifted, right? The return on investment in education through the formal system has changed. We just heard from Brandon right here, and this is a very well-known thing. Teachers do not get paid enough. You got your master's, right?
Yeah.
My sister got her master's as well.
Yep.
The amount of money you make on an annual basis by going to school and getting your master's to become a teacher is very small. So the return on investment for all your time and the debt that you've taken on is small. And then not only that, the opportunity to make much larger returns on your investment by educating yourself in an alternative approach through self-learning or communities and linking with the right people to build the right things is dramatically higher. So I think with the advent of the internet and social media and what that's done, it's opened up so much more opportunity for much larger returns on your time invested doing anything.
100%.
So I think that's what shifted the landscape, and it's a positive shift. Sometimes new eras must begin, right? Old eras must close, new eras must begin, and that's where we are today. So you've taken everything from becoming a coach to an educator, and then understanding that in order to have more of an impact, you need to be able to reach more people. And that resonates with me big time because I know that you have the power and the voice and the commitment to have a beautiful impact on so many people. And as important as it is to reach every individual on an individual basis, I feel that your purpose is to reach thousands and then hundreds of thousands of people by our side. So you went through that. You worked at Trader Joe's. You became a security guard. You invested in your first home. You lived there, made the sacrifices, and now we're here. Now it's the media company. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I do want to kind of touch a little bit because we're alluding to the investment side, right, and what we're not taught. So the whole point of getting the actual property was to get a second stream of income, and Airbnb was like popping off at the time, right? And like we're Southern California, everyone's going to Big Bear. Shutdown was going crazy, so everyone was going up to the mountains trying to escape, go in the wilderness. Like I had a freaking blast, like just in those 6 months. And I digress a little bit, but I'm a very like recluse. I'm very much like a lone wolf, just kind of like loner, do my thing. Like only child, I think that's what it comes from. But like I just want to keep giving you guys your flowers and the credit because like it's finally like in my mind, just like how I was like raised, kind of I was wired. I was like, I can do things on my own. Like I don't really need to like find like a group, but like there's something about the DTK group, this family. Like I can't even put like it's hard to explain because it's my experience, but like it's finally like you play sports and you have like your teams and your brotherhoods and stuff, but it's like an actual like brotherhood. It's an actual family. And like you mentioned, like for the fifth member of the family, like that actually, like it almost makes me emotional because it's just like only child, like that's just how I grew up, Yeah. So I just want to just kind of get that out there.
Love, bro.
The first thing you said when you said lone wolf, I was like, not anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
We're a wolf pack, dog.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't even like think about like just up and doing my own thing anymore because this is.
No, that's why I always say like
community.
It's so. Oh man, I can't stress this enough because like. One, we're not really marketing DTK. We don't really market it. We're word of mouth, and we're now pushing it, but it just sucks because there's so many young individuals out there that I wish knew they had an opportunity or a space like DTK to come in here and just learn. Like, looking back at all of our lives, if we had this back then, if I had a community like DTK to come in here, learn like long-term investments, learn what's going on in the market, learn Amazon, learn the business, learn the studio, dude, the life would be impacted tremendously. And shout out to Jared. He's like our youngest member in DTK. I think he's barely 20. He just turned 21. He was making like some really, really good money at first, and then he like really learned the process and the trade, and he's like focused on the long term. And I told him, like, focus on the long term, like focus on just collecting and putting your money into S&P, the ETS, right? Like, slowly build that up. And by the time you're 40, 50 years old, you'd be looking at a different type of person just because you took that time. And I always tell other people, like, you have a kid, build your account for your kid. It's like you could start putting $5 a week for your child right now. Yep. By the time they're 18, like, just stuff like that, it's so impactful. And when you say that, it's like we're not only a community like this, but we are a family because we come in here and we dedicate what we know to actually help people. And
absolutely,
it's like a mission for us, every single one of us. Like JP, especially Fatty, like JP, he does on your personal Instagram, you do like the reels that helped impact me. You know what I mean? Like,
appreciate that, bro.
That's important. And if people understood having a community like this, like, existed, like, dude. And I think that's our fault for not pushing that as much as we can, and we are starting to. But it just resonates on me that just like your words make me emotional as well. Because we work our ass off to just like come and show up every day, not for ourselves, because we don't take any money from the DTK, but we do it for everyone else. Because I was fucking put into a position where I wish I had someone like teaching me. It goes back to like having a game plan, you know, having like I wish, man, and I wish, and it's so rewarding to hear that, because a lot of people are gonna start realizing that it's more than just stocks and trading and all that stuff. It's an actual family of people who come in here dedicated to their craft, whether it's Amazon or stocks, but they just want to do one thing. It's be successful for them and their family and for the people around them. And that's what DTK is. Absolutely. And I'm glad you could see that, but yeah, you're not a lone wolf anymore, man. We got you on our wing.
Welcome to
like
the
crazy,
motherfucking
like,
wolf pack.
Yeah, how we all like connected, like it's still like it's synergy, you know, and it's super dope. And yeah, I mean, so kind of along the lines of that, like having, I don't want to kind of leave it on a cliffhanger. So like what happened was with the property, right?
Yeah, that's where we're waiting.
Yeah, that's where we're going. So what happened was I found out about HELOCs. I found out about home equity line of credit. And at the time, the real estate market, I don't know what the hell happened, but it freaking like exploded. And I found out that my property pretty much doubled in value. So I bought it for $300, put down $15K. So I took out a loan of $285, right? I got it appraised at almost like $500K. Found out this credit union was going to lend me based off the equity that I had in my house. They're like, we'll give you up to 90% of the equity that you have in your home, or something like that, something ridiculous. I kid you not, it was the first time I've ever seen six figures in my bank account. It was like $250,000, and I was like, holy fuck, I'm
Let's
rich.
Go.
Like, I was never gonna make that type of money teaching, and I was like, this is it. Like, I'm never gonna
never going back.
No, never going back. And you know what happens when you're not mentally prepared and you haven't developed yourself, and you give somebody that type of money that isn't ready for that type of money. I didn't go into spend it on like any no hookers or drugs or anything.
Damn it, this is gonna get good.
But so I made some investments, and that's kind of how I was able to get all this stuff and the equipment and things. But I didn't do as good of a job managing that money. I was kind of living off it. I got really comfortable. I thought it was just going to last forever, and then the market in Big Bear started to slow down a little bit. People weren't getting bookings. I ran into some trouble with my property management company. I lost some money there. Long story short, I was like, and this was recently, maybe about a month and a half. It's been a few months now. ended up having to sell the home because I was over leveraged and it wasn't bringing in cash flow like it was during like a hot season, right?
Yeah.
So I got out just in time. I broke even. I didn't have to like pay any money back, which is technically, I guess if you look at it, it's kind of like a win. But, you know, having that opportunity then, like if I would have the opportunity now, like what I could do with 250K, like having a community like you guys, like we were just talking earlier, like here's 100K, you know, like go make it work, go make some money with it, like. But you know, it's all learning experience, and like, you do it once, you can do it again. So
I'll tell you something, man. You didn't break even. You actually got a return on your investment with the lessons you learned from that, because now you're more prepared going in.
Absolutely,
especially in the real estate market right now, because everyone thinks we just got data today. Prices are up for 100K more than they were 4 months ago.
Yeah.
What bubble are we in? You know what I mean? It's California. I don't know where you're hearing this at, but California is just crazy.
Yeah,
crazy,
insane.
So you broke even on that, but you gained a lot of lessons.
Absolutely.
But now taking that knowledge into a community like DTK, when someone is going through the same stuff you're going through, that's the key thing.
100%.
You know, I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier. This is not something that we're prepared for, right? For a lot of us, you know, some people are blessed to have the right upbringing and to be surrounded by the right people as they're, you know, young teens that are growing into adults and kind of have that guidance. But none of us ever really had that kind of guidance. We had a lot of love and support from our family, but it wasn't on how to handle money, how to invest, how to take care of yourself in these different ways. So the first time you see a deposit of 250K in your account or whatever it may be, you're, I think, overwhelmed with all sorts of different thoughts that cross your mind. And as prepared as you think you are, you're not really prepared enough to kind of to feel that. So I think that everything does happen for a reason. And I think that sometimes when it comes to money like that, I mean, we've all seen it now. You have to see it and then see it go away to really learn that lesson and be prepared for the much larger revenue that's going to be coming in through those lessons that we've learned. So I'm glad that we stepped back and had this conversation, because there was a lot of resonance and a lot of energy that I felt from hearing everything that was shared. And that's what it's all about, having the right guidance and being surrounded by the right people to be able to make the right moves. We're not on our own anymore. We are not lone wolves. We are a wolf pack. And you surround yourself with a fucking wolf pack, you're going to fucking eat.
100%.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think with adding to the whole resonance aspect, it's like they say you attract money by vibration and the vibration that you're on. So a lot of the times if we come up on a lot of money and we're not vibrationally matched to that amount of money, it's not going to stick because our mindsets, our thoughts, and our ideas are matched to something else. So they say if you ever want to acquire a lot of money, you have to match the vibration. You have to feel it within yourself. So how you became comfortable, how you became complacent is because vibrationally you weren't at that level. But now through that experiences that you've gone through, now you're able to connect. And now when that comes about, you're not going to have the same experiences. And like Dan said, it's like the lessons that you learned are priceless, bro, are priceless. Absolutely. And you take that and you're able to catapult that to something greater, which is ultimately what I think why we're all here is just to connect and to really invest in ourselves. And I wanted to ask you, so what was that transition from you teaching to, let's say, being an entrepreneur? Like, what was there a split decision or something that just came to mind? You're like, you know what, I want to do this or this. Because I think it's something when you're having an impact on people and then now you're transitioning to, let's say, more so about yourself, which ultimately is going to catapult to making the impact on more people. I think there has to be something that goes on in your mind. Like, what was that transition for you?
For sure. I think it was honestly the distance with the whole hybrid distance teaching. Unfortunately, you know, especially with that environment, you know, you need to be hands-on with those kids. They need to be in person, you know.
Because you're doing the on Zoom
It was all
stuff.
hybrid. I was teaching from like Big Bear. I was like doing online class. Like even like the kids were graduating and it was just like they're doing drive-by like graduations. It was just so strange.
I remember that. Oh,
Drive-by graduation.
It was the strangest
drive-by
time.
graduations, drive-by birthdays, drive-by Easter. I remember that, dude.
Yeah,
Weird times.
We try to go back in the classroom and there's like barriers up and then they try to like couldn't figure it out. Maybe we'll go once a week, twice a week. Like it was just a mess. And I was just like, you know what? And kind of going back to like the whole, you know, my purpose, it was in like I was saying, you know, all of us, we want to have that impact. And I literally couldn't impact students like I wanted to,
100%.
So on top of, the Airbnb and the house, like I needed to spend more time, just like because I was just going to do everything on my own, and I had enough capital to like furnish it and pay for like materials and stuff, but and obviously like bigger, labor intense jobs, but I knew that whatever sort of entrepreneurial venture, whatever it was, that was going to be my avenue towards that ultimate, that bigger picture. So I did struggle with that. I was like, am I being selfish? Am I stepping away from teaching too early? Like, am I just thinking about myself? But looking back at it now, hindsight being 2020, it's like, no, I'm gonna have an impact on those kids, and even like afterwards, like they graduate, it's like sometimes you don't see the fruits of your labor until like years later. They're like, "Oh, Mr. Brandon, like I'm sorry for being a jerk in your class. Like I just graduated high school. Like thanks for all your help." You know what I'm saying? So
It's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's just that's the path that I feel now, and just like all of us here, being entrepreneurs and going down that venture, down that avenue. I think that's our path. That's our answer.
And be brutal honest. Like, what do you need to help impact people? You need money. If you really want to help impact people, like I'm talking mass, right? Like what you're saying, you could help a group of kids, but I don't think that's like your cap, right?
Exactly.
And that's what you saw the vision. Be brutally honest, though. Everyone should know that money helps you help people.
Absolutely.
That's just like I hate that whole like, oh, where people say you don't need money to be happy, this and that. Like, okay, that's true, but it'll make life a lot fucking easier.
Absolutely.
Especially for the people who are struggling around me that I can't help.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a resource. It's a resource is what it is. The more resources you have, the more successful you're going to be doing anything you're doing.
It's a
So
resource.
if you treat it like a resource, you allocate it accordingly and you spend it the right way, you're going to have a much larger impact on whatever vision you have, whether that's helping people or building a business for yourself. Everybody has different goals. We just happen to all be aligned in the sense that we want to help people and we want to see everybody around us succeed. But regardless of what you're doing, money as a resource will always provide you with more success, right?
Absolutely.
And the funny thing with money, it always amplifies whoever the
sure.
person is, right?
Yeah.
So if you're like a good person, it amplifies who you are. If you're a shit person, it amplifies who you are. So
I noticed that.
it's always great to come and connect with like-minded individuals that ultimately want to make a difference, because we know that if we have $1, we're all eating. If we have $100, we're all eating, because that's how we were raised. That's how we were brought up. So it's just like, I know for a fact that the people in this room, doesn't matter if we hit the lotto or something happens, it's like we will always look after each other.
1000%.
And that's what family is about,
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, 100%. And one thing that I noticed, like everyone here, is like you were talking about vibrating at such a high frequency, and whether it's by chance or not, for whatever reason, it's the fact that that we're all on that same wavelength. We're all vibrating at such a high frequency. Do you guys attest that to entrepreneurship, or is there anything like in your guys' life that really made you decide, like, because I know like for me, like I was telling you, like during that time it was pivotal for me, and I had to really look within, start going down the personal development route, start even learning what does it mean to even vibrate at a high frequency. Like I wasn't ever told, how to even like, that was never like even in my vocabulary, So like, do you guys attest that to entrepreneurship, or where did your guys' sort of personal development journey begin?
Honestly, I get this question a lot, and I don't know if you're one of the ones where I was like 18, 19, and people thought I was like 28, 29 from where I was in life, just because of like how I presented myself and everything like that. I don't know where I got that from. I think I was like born with it. People are like, you might have had that from years of lessons before you were even born. If you believe in that stuff, I don't know. But one thing I do know is like, it's in me. It's a passion in me. I don't know if like people could say like, yeah, I'm this and that, but like until you actually do it and you feel it, and well, like I've been doing this last 10, 12 years,
Yeah.
like that's in me no matter what. So I feel like once you know it's in you and you see it grow and you progress with it, then you just know.
Okay.
Right. And for me, the lessons that I've learned, if you know what's in you, I think the biggest thing you could do is just fucking do what you need to do to either succeed or find the lesson in that loss.
Okay.
Because my biggest thing was, yeah, I could say that I'm an entrepreneur, I could build a business, and I could do all this stuff, but unless you actually do it and you have the wins and the failures and stuff, you're nothing, right?
For sure.
So it was having that passion, and then not only having the passion of feeling that, but actually doing something, no matter what the losses or wins were. We all come from losses, right? Majority of what we've done have been a failure. But that doesn't mean we stop there. And that's, I think, the real passion is like how many people have failed and how many people have stopped after they failed.
Exactly.
For us, it's like, okay, we failed. What's the next thing, right? Failed. What's the next thing? It's a numbers game for me.
Okay.
If I could do this 100 times, right? And I know that maybe out of 100 businesses that I build, 10 of them are going to be massive, then all I need to do is just fucking go and create and go and create and go and create until I find that 10. And that's just what it's been for me. Okay. I don't know, what do you guys think?
I think for me, my journey and a lot of my skill set stems from the upbringing itself, but over time it's evolved because of that spirituality and understanding different things, experiencing different things. So from the get-go, our family struggled very much growing up. We had it rough. My dad supported us as a plumber. He had his own business, but it was a one-man show. Shout out to Pops for feeding us and our entire family and bringing us where we are. My entire family from Syria came, and Pops dropped out of school in 7th grade and no education, but he did all their paperwork, and they all lived with us for 6 months to a year at a time. One set of uncles and aunts and the cousins at a time until they were on their feet and they were able to move out. During that time, my dad was on crutches for a few years because he had bad knees. He had 3 discs in his back. So we were on welfare from time to time, but no matter what, the family was always eating. And I saw a lot of struggle. I saw the pain that, despite all the love that our family has brought in to everything, and that is what got us through, I never wanted to see my people struggle that way ever again. Yeah. And I think it was making that decision and saying, I'm going to fucking work my ass off and do whatever it fucking takes and sacrifice whatever I need to sacrifice to make sure this never happens again, is kind of like the initial drive that turned me into, who I am today. But over the last 2 years, I think I've started to stem and take a slightly different look at things. Now it's always going to be from that same core value, but I think it was one breath work that we had at the sanctuary during the pandemic that really changed a lot of things for me. And I was kind of going through a mental battle with a business decision and some things that I was dealing with. And I put an intention out there and I said, guide me to the path that I'm meant to be on. And I was never spiritual. I mean, we're raised Catholic, right? But I went from atheist to, I think it's agnostic, where you don't really take a stance, to, all right, maybe there is something more, right? So anyways, I go into this breath work and I close my eyes and I put out that intention, and I just have this very clear, vivid visual of this face, this being, this entity in front of me that said, stop seeking, simply surrender. And I woke up out of that and I just was overwhelmed with tears, and I'm an emotional guy and I can't hold it back. Like when they flow, they flow. And from there, that was a major pivot for me, because from there I was like, you know what? We can create a system where the people around us are not going to struggle. We can have a positive influence, but if I want to do it on a greater scale than what I'm doing now, I have to change my perception on what it really means to be successful. And I learned to start to align myself whenever possible. It's an uphill battle. It takes a lot of shifting to grow up the way that we grew up, and then be able to put yourself in a position where you start to shut certain things down and align in certain ways. And I've learned a lot of that from Jay. He's been like the biggest example for me of being able to put no excuses and do what you want to do spiritually, whether it's going sober, whether it's waking up at a certain time, whether it's running your first marathon, no matter what it is. Jay has really kind of guided me to opening more enlightenment in my life. And I think that this has ultimately led me and all of us to where we are today. So I think that plays a huge role. And I feel that that unlocked a cap in my life that otherwise would not have been unlocked. And I do attribute that to those breathwork visions, sessions that we had,
Those are beautiful.
which I wouldn't have experienced if it wasn't for the guidance that we got right here. So
Appreciate that, bro. I appreciate it. It's just such a beautiful insight to hear, like, everyone's perspective and like how we've ultimately all come together through like this thing we call energy, vibration, frequency, right? So it's like, for me, I think the biggest thing and the hugest shift that has occurred in my life was back in, like, I believe 2017, with my mom getting sick and me figuring out how to help her as much as I can. So I've always been this determined person, always seen huge aspirations for myself. Like, I think that's one thing, like, my father instilled in me was like, you can be the best at anything that you do. Do not, like, set limitations for yourself. It doesn't matter what's around, you're capable of doing it. You know,
Okay.
This man came on a student visa when he was 16 years old, didn't speak the language, became very successful, lost a lot, gained a lot. But the one thing he instilled was mindset within us. It was just like, you're capable of doing everything. Like, just keep pushing, keep going, and don't let anyone tell you no. And I took that, and I ran with it, and I ultimately applied that to everything else in my life. And it's kind of coming full circle. Sometimes I'm like, damn, maybe I shouldn't have done some of the things that I've done. And I put myself in certain positions that now I have to get myself out of.
Sure.
But ultimately, it's all lessons, right? So like you said, it's like you learned about HELOC. You did that experience. Now you've kind of capped yourself. You had to liquidate your asset because of actually understanding that. But the way I've always looked at these things is, now you have that knowledge, right? So let's say that's your first property, right, that you bought. That's not going to be your last.
Yeah.
So now you have that understanding. You know how you're going to manage stuff, and now you're going to be able to move forward with it. So for me, back in 2017, I started applying, like, my mindset to, like, okay, my mom is sick, right? How can I help her? So I started looking into all these books about spirituality, energy, pretty much how your mind can create your reality, your subconscious, how it works, how your conscious mind is operating. And I used that, and I started seeing the connection with everything. And I'm like, oh shit. So all these things that are occurring in our life are just ultimately a depiction and a reflection of what we're feeling internally within ourselves. So the more we start looking within, the easier life becomes externally. So I started doing those things and kind of went through the whole process with my mom. And, you know, they gave her only a certain amount of time that she was going to live. She was able to exceed that. Unfortunately, she still passed, but I looked at that passing as a transcendence of life. You know, I started understanding life differently, and I started applying those principles of energy, vibration, frequency to my day-to-day life. So if I wasn't feeling good, it's because something is occurring within myself that is now reflecting externally. And I started taking those things and I started applying it to, like, okay, let's see what kind of limits we can pass, right? So, like, I never thought I was going to run a marathon, you know, and it's just like, one of my good friends was Eli. He was like, bro, like, let's do a marathon. He's like, I'm running marathons now. I was like, fuck it, let's do it. And then I had Fad do one, and then Dan came in.
I never thought I was going to run a marathon.
Dan came up.
Let me tell you guys something. If I could run a marathon, every single one of you guys could.
Our boy Heron came. Like, bro, it was just like, it was a movement, bro. And we all ran a marathon, bro. And like, none of us thought like we were capable of doing that. I think I'm now at like 4 to 5 marathons, like one half marathon.
That's awesome.
And it's just like, bro, it's like whatever we set our minds to, we can do. And like Fad said, it's like, bro, the more we come together collectively, the easier the goal becomes. I'm a big believer that as we come together, we're emitting a certain energy, right? So if you get one person on one focus and one goal, right, that's just one energy. If you have 4 people, 5 people, 6 people focus on the same thing, you're now emitting that frequency to attract it, right? So they say feelings, what's that saying? They say, I honestly, I just drew a blank, but it's pretty much what you think sends out the impulse, and what you feel brings it back.
So powerful.
So it's like, the more of us that are thinking that thought and that idea and that goal and that and whatever we need to accomplish, and we're all feeling it collectively, it's going to bring it back.
100%.
So it's like, how big do we want to dream? How big do we want to go?
Yeah, because if we see the power of one mind, imagine 6, 7, all thinking the same thing.
It happens like this.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's what we're seeing as we're working on Redline. It's like we came up with the topic and something that was occurring or an obstacle that we had, and literally people were like walking into the room with the answer.
Insane.
But it's because we're all connecting, and we were all having that same understanding, like this is the goal that we have, and these are the questions that we're asking to ourselves. So just to kind of sum it up, bro, it's like, yeah, it's just, I think our experience in life shaped us and moved us to have these thoughts and ideas that ultimately are here now, and it's illustrating our reality now. It's because of our experiences, what we've gone through. It's like, I know if I wouldn't have lost my parents, my mindset would have been completely different. And I knew in those moments of them, gradually, I would say the word deteriorating, because that's how I saw them. I knew that there was something greater that was going to come from it. And I knew that I was going to be able to use this voice to be able to connect with like-minded individuals and give back, which is what we did with the sanctuary. The sanctuary has now kind of stopped, but it's going to come back, and it's going to come back massively. It's just a matter of time.
That's amazing.
You bring up a good point, man. I want to kind of bring attention to is if you guys have, and this, everyone listening to the podcast, watching it, if you guys are reaching a plateau in your life, it doesn't matter if it's a business, your fitness, or anything in life, find one person that you align with the same goals or the same visions. And one example, if I'm a photographer, right? I don't want to be stuck in this whole competitive mindset of I want to be the best photographer out there. Instead, try to find 3 or 4 other dope photographers, sit down at a table and see how all of you could create something bigger than what you guys are working on. Same thing with anything else in business. And this is what we're exactly doing. And you brought up a good point about this, is because when we're working all together, Fatty and I, we hit a plateau in DTK, but we're starting to break that plateau because we're all working together now. And I feel like that has a lot to do with everything in life, with fitness, with this. If you're going through a plateau in fitness, how dope is it to find 2 or 3 other people to get into and hey, let's just do a dope workout. Me and Byron were working out in basketball, and we had a really good workout, man. We were sweating our asses off. We weren't doing cardio, but we came together. We're like, dude, this felt really good. So just, if you guys are in that mind frame, if you're hitting a plateau, if you're not working towards your business, find people who are actually aligned with your same vision, and see how you guys could create something beneficial that works both of you, because that works for both of you, because you will reach your goals a lot faster with the people who are going in the same place, instead of having that competitive mindset. Absolutely. And I see it firsthand. People who want to keep information out, and I tell people all the time, give away as much free information as you can, especially the fire stuff, because imagine what information you have that people would pay for, right? So it's the same thing. Don't just work together. And I would encourage a lot more people to come together and just figure out some really big goals. And if you don't get anywhere, I promise you're going to get somewhere. But if you don't get anywhere, the best thing you had was a good conversation with like-minded people.
Yeah.
Right? And so that good point, we're doing that right here. And I think that's amazing. Actually, that brings up to kind of the last segment of what we're currently kind of working on, which is TBD Studios and Alpha Production, right? Mm-hmm. So what are you doing right now with your life with TBD Studios and all that stuff? Because it's pretty impactful.
Yeah, so honestly, just going all in on what we're doing here, the power of voice, I think especially the timing of the way that our digital world is going, seeing how impactful when you combine audio and video together. It wasn't my intention to start, podcasting or build a podcast network. That's kind of what it grew into. The original vision for the studio was to kind of follow the Airbnb model, just build out a dope space, kind of rent it out to people that might want to use it. But, kind of fast forward to where it's at now, I think you made a great point, your guys' last conversation, how you have to, one, either stay true to yourself or know when to make those adjustments. So trying to walk that fine line between the two, with what we're doing now with the media stuff, I'm just going all in on podcasting. It's honestly like it's like a passion that I didn't know that I had. It's almost like I kind of created that for myself, and it's like setting up like the lights and then the furniture and like almost like the set design and it's something that I'm enjoying. So I'm building out like a podcast network and anything that aligns with media and creating, and whether it's helping build out the network or helping somebody else kind of create that visual story. I think we can all agree that the world is going all in on the social media, and that's how you can get your voice out. That's how you can create just such a bigger impact, is through, you can connect with people all over the world through just this little cell phone, so I think we're all sold on creating content for our own individual goals, but also the bigger picture like DTK and Redline, and I'm doing TBD, and then how it all kind of aligns and comes together.
And what are we doing with Alpha?
Yeah, so I think as Brandon's transition was occurring, it really created a transition with Alpha, because like our business is, buying and selling cars, customizing, stuff like that. But it's just like how you said, you and Fat reached a cap, right? So my brother and I, we reached a cap. It is how many more cars are you going to sell, right? How many more people are you going to connect with? I feel like collectively in consciousness, it's no longer about making money, right? It's about what type of impact are you going to make on this earth? And I think the hierarchy of business is shifting. So I feel like personally, and this is my opinion, the whole CEO, COO, CFO, and then you have your member, is the hierarchy is shifting. It's changing. It's going to be leaders and like-minded individuals that are going to be coming together and that are going to be leading a certain cause, a certain company, and they're going to be leading on principles that are different than what they are now, which now is, okay, we need to make X amount of money. If we're losing, we're doing this, we're doing that. I think that's going to shift. I think it's going to be what type of impact can we make on people, and what platform can we create for people, right? Yeah. And that's kind of why we're shifting Alpha with Alpha Productions, or there isn't a name that has been solidified yet, but that's kind of what we're working with. It's just creating a space for people in Laguna Beach to connect, to be able to produce content, to have podcasts, to be able to have a studio, to be able to just give people that ability and that platform that there isn't out here. In Los Angeles, there's a lot, right?
Absolutely.
LA is swarmed with it, but also you're swarmed with traffic, you're swarmed with bums, you're swarmed with a lot of things that I feel like limit your, not limit your creativity, but it adds a different level of stress, right? So like I live in LA now, and I come here every day. So I come to Laguna, then I come to Costa Mesa every day. So it's a drive. When you drive down here, it's like a disconnect, right? So you're able to work and you have this different level of thinking here. But when you drive back, it's like you adjust to that environment. Vibrationally, people are going through it really deep there, and we can add on a lot of different things of why that's occurring. But it's just like, it's something heavy, right? And that's why I do feel like there's a reason for me to be out there. But ultimately, just kind of seeing everything that is occurring, it's like, what better time than now, right? I think for the last few years, my brother and I have just been so focused on, we have to make money to be able to supplement this, pretty much, right? To supplement our voice, to be able to supplement our media, to supplement our platform, to supplement our voice. I said that again, voice, because this is a big reason behind it, right?
Yeah.
And you get lost in it. You get lost in making money. You get lost in losing money, right? And then you get to this cycle where you're just like, fuck, like, why am I constantly doing the same thing? And yeah, I'm making money, but it's also not sticking the way it's supposed to. It's because now you're no longer aligned to that reality. God, consciousness, higher power, whatever you believe in, whatever higher beliefs you have, has a greater purpose for each and every one of us. And the more we resist those things, the harder our life becomes, right? So when things transition for me, I was like, fuck, I just have to make money. Like you said, money is going to give us the ability and the freedom. But literally right now, as we're doing this podcast in the current situation that we're all in, look at what we're able to create literally with, some money, but not to the extent that we feel like we needed to be here, right? So if we were told ourselves 6 months ago, a year ago, hey, we're going to be able to create this whole podcast studio where you guys are staying at and living, and, you know, we're only going to spend this amount of money. We're like, dude, there's no way.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make any sense, right? But it's because now we have a purpose. Now our purpose is coming to us, right? So it's like if we have all these opportunities and we aren't taking advantage of them, then things in our life are going to continue to not align to where we need to go, right? So our path is now opened up, and this is why these things are occurring. You know, I think it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful. Everything is happening the way it is, and it's now up to us to execute, right? So, like,
100%.
to add on to Alpha and to kind of close the statement, it was like my idea was to do like a car storage, right? Because that's what's popping off, right? In the car business, everyone's going to car storage. I put an ad and it was blank, nothing. I was like, fuck. And I had this epiphany. I was like, you know what? What if we do a production studio? What if we do like a content studio? What if we simplify the process of being able to film, being able to create, shoot photography, and do all these things that we're doing now there.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation, you know, Brandon came down and I asked him, and then he added to that. And I definitely would want you to add and speak, you know, to the audience of kind of like what you offered in your vision on that studio, right? So
Absolutely. And it's crazy going back to how when two or more people think of a similar vision, even just thinking about it and seeing how it all comes together, like that was, I spent some time in LA, like you were saying, there's a lot of production studios and they'll film like music videos and stuff there. And like that was where the original idea came from, but obviously just with the resources that I had, I did it like on a smaller scale. So it was like maybe like 1,000 square foot warehouse, you know, built like a small little like psych wall. You know, we had the equipment, we had like crammed people in there for like live podcasts, like, you know, productions or whatever. Get the idea of a content studio. Like you said, they're everywhere in LA, but not in Orange County, especially Laguna Beach. And then fast forward to now, it's just like how now our visions are literally like almost like we're going two different, like we hadn't even like met until maybe how long ago?
it was like a few months.
And then now it's like kind of like just how it really aligns, and like you being able to magnify that vision literally like times 10, you know, like I was doing on a small scale. Now you're able to do it on an actual legitimate times 10, like on a magnifying glass, you know? And I think it's beautiful, especially, you know, Laguna, it's not a chance by we're ending up in Laguna Beach being the creative, artsy world that it is, you know, that they love stuff there. And, you know, I see just the vision for building out the studio and for, I mean, like you said, you could, I don't know, the possibility is just endless.
They really are, because I went to VidCon last weekend, and if you guys don't know, it's like an influencer conference. People going from TikTok, Instagram, all the social media. And I was asking questions. I was like, so where do you guys create and all that stuff? And some, like, they'll create their home, but like the bigger upscale individuals, the influencers, talking with like millions and millions, they'll go out of their way to get a perfect studio or a perfect event or a perfect look to have that theme because they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right? So it was just like, wow, like cars industry is always going to be cars, but you could see the flame on the social media industry and how much people are utilizing podcasts, and not only influencers, guys. As an Amazon business owner, I needed to create products or to create videos and photos for my products, for my brands, for commercials. So it's not just the influencer world. It could go through the influencers, the business, the entrepreneurs, the creators, the production team, the photographers, the videos. Like it's endless, but people need it. And especially like in Laguna, that's fucking beautiful. That you're not going to get that any other opportunity just handled like that. We got to take full advantage of that.
Absolutely. It's crazy how much we've manifested and created with so little other than an aligned vision in such little time. It's absolutely mind-blowing, and it's hard to grasp until you allow yourself to kind of understand the spiritual aspect of it and the you know, everything that Jay talks about. It's like when you're describing it, I'm just seeing all of us coming together as one big satellite that's just emitting this beam of energy. Exactly. And what our vision is and what we're seeing, and all the right people and everything that we're needing is being attracted to that light that's coming out of that room, us coming together on a daily basis, sitting around that conference table and manifesting what we want through action and commitment, has just brought everything together. And it's absolutely insane, right? So we're glad, we're grateful for everybody. We're grateful for the team coming together, and we're grateful to be surrounded around, I mean, I think what all of us can say, the most, everything we could ask for is right here. And it's just up to us to keep doing what we're doing. And I think the last 2 months alone have showed us that we're on the right path. Things are aligning on a much deeper level. And I think that our purposes are becoming fulfilled now and in the very short term. And it's going to be fast.
Just
Absolutely.
learn to stop seeking
And simply surrender.
let go,
And let God.
and let God, baby. That's what we do over here, man. Well, we are already an hour in. I know if I don't stop this right here, we could talk for another 2 or 3 hours. So we'll have to have you on the next another time. But one thing I want to do to close this out is we always do these questions, and we'll do 2 questions. The first question is: think back of the time you were struggling the most. What would you tell that version of yourself with the version you have right now?
Embrace all the pain. Don't try to forget or, be numb to it. Legitimately, like, absorb that feeling of discomfort, almost seek discomfort, and understand that the only way to grow and become 2.0, 3.0, a different version of yourself is if you struggle and embrace pain and you feel certain pressures and you have those experiences that hurt. You could throw the metaphor of, you're in the gym, if you want to get bigger, you got to tear yourself down, like literally. You got to tear your muscles. You got to really just break yourself down. So I would say that's one point, just to embrace that time. There's beauty in the struggle, and understand that there's a brighter day, and you're going to come out a better version of yourself once it's over. You said 2 points?
No. I'm going to ask 2 questions.
Okay.
So that was a good one right there.
That's my one.
Okay. Keep going with the sauce, baby. That brought a good point. Have you guys ever had growing pains before?
Like physically?
Like growing pains? Yeah. Have you?
I remember them like one time in my life.
Dude, I used to have them as a kid. And I don't know how I had like an analogy. Like one day I was like, just giving a metaphor of like growing, right? And I was like, dude, like, how growth comes with pain. Like in order to grow, you got to come through pain. Like you said, in the weight room, you're going to feel that pain when you're running a marathon. You know how much ibuprofen I took to even fucking finish that race. But when I had growing pains, like you would feel pain around your legs and knees because you were growing. And I was like, fuck, man, that's just everything else in life. In order to grow, you have to feel that pain. So that's beautiful. The second question would be a little bit more fun. What's something that you splurged on, you spent a lot of money on, that you don't regret?
You're seeing it here.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So if you guys don't look, like we are literally, so Brandon's main business is kind of a podcast, like,
just full on like media production.
But you could go anywhere with your setup, right? So it's like to go. What do you call that?
Mobile, yeah.
Right? Mobile podcast. But if you guys look at the setup, it would be far from anything like you would think mobile. It's all high quality production. We got these beautiful lights. He hired some random production guy in the background. Shout out to Byron, Alpha Productions. But that's what I was gonna say. Like that's beautiful. But you spent that to work on your craft.
Of
right?
course, yeah.
That's amazing. That's a bit for me, man. So
Just remember, this is mobile for the time being. Once the production studio's up, you're going to have to come to the studio.
Yeah, 1,000%. Because if this is this fire, wait till you get into the studio.
And it's coming fast.
It is.
It's coming by July 12th, you say?
Well, we actually, so I have a client of mine, I was talking to Jay about it, that wanted to shoot. We scheduled a pod back when I had the studio, so we didn't even get into that story. And we talked off camera. Jay kind of asked me, "Is like, how did you deal with it?" Like I spent the last year pretty much in that space every day, and then like a bunch of stuff happened. I don't have it anymore. And I think like literally today, not that it hit me, but it solidified as just like, it wasn't a loss. That was the way it was supposed to happen, to
Connect.
and do something way bigger, you know? I don't know where I was going with that. That just kind of popped
That's
up.
true, though.
But,
It's all good,
yeah,
bro.
yeah, absolutely. So we're going to test it out Thursday. A client of mine that we shot a podcast at the original studio. We're going to shoot it in the showroom, get some feedback, and then, you know what I'm saying?
Sick.
So
That'd be a good feedback.
push it from
Test
there.
run.
Yeah, absolutely.
It goes back to what we said in our last podcast. Everything in life is temporary and it serves a purpose.
Yep.
And that door was opened regardless to how we may feel emotionally over the steps we take forward and the stumbles we take back. They all fulfill a purpose. And if we allow ourselves to align to our actual greater vision and purpose, we are going to become in a state that's entirely amplified on another scale. And that's exactly what's happening right in front of us in real time. And you better fucking believe it's gonna fucking rock.
There you go,
Oh, yeah.
baby. Look at that smile. All right, guys. Hey, where can everyone find you on socials or anything? If someone want to get a podcast, what's the easiest way to hit you up?
TBD Media Studio. I have 2 accounts. You know, we have the media agency, which is less podcasts and more like content for businesses, you know, law offices, doctor offices, you know, just more content. But TBD Media Studio is, you know, focused on work like this, you know, more podcasts, and that's the one I'm most active on.
Perfect. On Instagram?
Instagram.
Okay.
Awesome. We'll have the links set up in our description on the videos wherever we're posting these things. And
Okay, and then that's all. You don't have any, do you have TikTok or any of that stuff? No? You're not making
yet.
any TikTok dances yet?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. You can follow us on DTK Dreamers on everything, social media, YouTube, Twitter, on all that stuff. Follow Alpha Motive, ALPHMIT I3?
ALPHAMOTIV3.
And then, guys, this was a beautiful podcast. It's one of our closest friends, another one of our family members in here today. We do this every single week now. Now that Brandon's here, we're going to be starting a lot of podcasts. So be prepared to get these type of conversations every single week. We're here for you guys. Give us some feedback on the podcast. Give them some topics for us to talk about. Or if you want to see a special guest, I'm trying to hit up Kim Kardashian. She's not getting back to me. I heard she had a new master's degree in the lawyer. I'm trying to get to her, but hit us up if you have any special guests. I would love to come down to the Costa Mesa, Laguna area and talk about their life journey. Okay. Anything else?
beautiful. Another fucking success.
Another
Let's get it,
fucking
baby.
success. Episode 5 of the DTK podcast. We'll see you next week, guys. Later. Love you guys all.
Peace. Let's go, boys.
Perfect.
Let's fucking go.
Let's go.